Hi everybody, I'm Mrs. Miller from Belle Plaine, Longfellow Elementary. I teach art, gifted education, and STEAM at our school. I would like to welcome you to the ECI STEM Festival. ECI stands for East Central Iowa. In that STEM Festival region, we have Belle Plaine, Benton Community, Central Lutheran School, English Valleys, HLV, Iowa Valley, Vinton-Shellsburg, and Williamsburg. So greetings everybody. If you would like to do this segment with us, we are going to be making kolaches. So we are going to look at the list of ingredients, and what I would like you to do, if you want to make it along with us, when you get to a part that you need to do, pause this video and then continue. So we're going to start by talking about our ingredients that we need. My niece Lily, wave Lily, is here. She's a first grade student at Longfellow Elementary, and she's going to be here helping me with our kolaches today. So the first thing that we're going to need is yeast. So make sure you have a package of yeast. I have Red Star yeast, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Warm water has to be 110 to 115 degrees, and if you don't have a thermometer for measuring the temperatures of liquids at home, you can just put it like on your wrist or something, and if it feels kind of like bath water, not too hot, not too cold, it'll probably be okay. Then we have a little bit of sugar to feed the yeast, and we're going to talk about that again in a little bit. We have salt, flour, shortening, which the shortening could be margarine, or it could be half butter, half Crisco. Whatever you have, make that work. And then we're going to have more sugar, scalded and cooled milk, we'll talk about that later, 2 eggs, and then a cup of milk, additional liquid. It can be regular milk or it can be evaporated milk. The evaporated milk is just a little bit thicker, but the other milk works too. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to do the yeast. But before we start the yeast process, I want to talk to you a little bit about the science of yeast. Yeast has a big name in the science field. It's Saccharomyces cerevisiae. It means sugar-eating fungus. It is a living organism. It can be activated by rehydrating it with that liquid that's 110 to 115 degrees. Now this living organism is a single cell that needs energy from sugars. Those sugars can be from cane sugars, beet sugars, honey, molasses, and that is what it eats and how it survives. When this yeast is activated, it starts to bubble up. And one thing we have to talk about when we're making something with yeast is as we activate our yeast, we activate it in a separate bowl or container because we want to see if the yeast starts to foam and bubble. If it doesn't, then we need to get a different yeast because it's not fresh enough. So we don't put all the ingredients together and then find out our dough isn't going to rise. We do the yeast separate. So we'll do the yeast first in a little bit. And remember, when you can pause this video at any time to do what you need to do to catch up with us. So those living organisms that I had talked about, when they start to heat up and start to bubble, they're releasing carbon dioxide. And in the first part where we just have the water and a little bit of sugar and that yeast to make it kind of start growing and coming alive, we're giving it some sugar to make it kind of wake up because that's what it eats and that's how it survives and how it gets energy. So we then have that going on, and then we're going to start adding the other ingredients to it. After it becomes foamy and bubbly, we're going to add our other ingredients, and those other ingredients we're going to mix up. You can use this, I have a stand mixer with a hook attachment, but if you don't have that, you can just stir it up in a regular bowl. Whatever you have is what you can use. And then as that yeast starts to work and bubble, it releases that carbon dioxide, and because we're mixing the yeast with the flour and all the other ingredients, it becomes elastic, an elastic dough that can't escape out of the dough, and the gases cause it then to expand or to rise. And that's what we want. We want that fermentation. And did you know that yeast cells are tiny, tiny, small, egg-shaped cells, and they have 20 billion for 1 ounce. That's a lot of yeast. So I got all of this information from the website at Red Star Yeast. There's another YouTube video that I thought was very interesting from the University of Leicester in England, and the YouTube video is called Life Cycles of Yeast by Professor Rona Barretts. So you can look that up for even more extensive information. She really breaks it down and how the sciences work and how all of this works. But we're just going to talk about this, Saccharomyces cerevisiae yeast, and how it works. So the first thing that Lily and I are going to do, Lily, you can put that down. Lily is going to take, it says, 1/2 cup warm water. So she's going to take this 1/2 cup of water that we have pre-measured and put it in a microwave safe bowl. Carefully. I already dripped a few drops of water on the counter, so it's okay if she does too. So Lily, can you put the Lily is going to take 1/2 cup of water that we had already measured out, and she is going to pour that into a microwave safe container that we can warm up this water to 110 to 115 degrees. So Lily, go ahead and put that in the microwave. Hit that 30-second button twice. We'll leave it in for 1 minute. You did it. All right, so we're going to let that warm up, and what we're going to do is use a thermometer. And like I said, if you don't have a thermometer, you can just put a little bit on your finger to see and see if it's warm enough, to put on your wrist there and see if it's warm enough. Not too hot, not too cold. So when that is done, Lily, grab it by the handle and put it back over here. We're going to take its temperature. Well, we're going to make sure it's 110, and there's 125 and there's 100, right? So we're going to get it right in between there will be 115 and 110. We don't want it to go past 125. So let's put that in there, open the microwave, and put that in there in the water to see what the temperature is. Can you reach that? Just go ahead and, you can leave that in there. We'll just see what the temperature is. Just go ahead and put that little thing in there. We'll let it set there and I'll come see what the temperature is. Good job. Maybe we can pull it down so you can see it better. Not quite warm enough. So maybe another 30 seconds. You hit that 30-second button again. Oh, you might have to clear it first and then hit it. See where it says stop clear? 2 buttons up. Okay, now hit 30 seconds. Now we'll see if we get it warm enough. I want to let you know also that our ECI STEM Festival is, our platinum sponsor is Compass Memorial Hospital in Marengo, Iowa. And they are our sponsor because all of these school districts are surrounding that hospital. So we really appreciate them sponsoring us. And as this day goes on, you're going to have chances to, wait 1 second, you're going to have chances to earn prizes. And a couple of those prizes, this one, look at this one. Lily, can you show them this? It is an ECI STEM Festival pen. And it has a little bead in there, and it's like a maze that you can make that bead travel. And then Compass Memorial is also giving us this putty. It's to play with, so we're going to have some of those for prizes. There's a lot of those. We have t-shirts that say ECI STEM Festival. We have bracelets that say it, plus all the schools that are involved. So a lot of cool stuff. I think that the Governor's STEM Council gave us a couple of build robot kits so that you can make something at home. And if you want to earn any of these prizes, I'll take those back, thank you. If you want to earn any of these prizes, what you have to do is, after you're done doing something, like let's say you're going to make these yeast kolaches, when you get done making them, you can take a picture of your kolaches, maybe with your face of you eating one, and you can put it on our Jamboard, which will be at the end of all of these pages of videos There's lots of videos for you to see. Videos about jellyfish, videos about Minecraft, videos about making rockets and taking drones apart and making things. And there's videos about all kinds of things, really cool stuff that you can learn about. And when you scroll to all of those, you're going to see all different kinds of things from some of the other districts and from other places that we have collected from people to put in our ECI STEM Festival. And it's supposed to be, last year it was canceled because of the coronavirus, and then this year we decided to go ahead with it virtually so that you can still get some of these cool things. We're hoping that next year, and save the date, March 27th, 2022, 1 to 4 in the Belle Plaine High School, we are going to be hosting it in person with all different kinds of activities and displays. We will have a planetarium, Digitarium planetarium in there. That'll be cool. We're gonna have Absolute Science doing science experiments, and we have 8 of their videos listed in our group of videos for our ECI STEM Festival. We really love Absolute Science, so make sure you check those out too. They even teach you how to make cool bubbles. Okay, Lily, let's check the temperature on this again. So I'm gonna put okay, Lily, how warm is our water? Put that thermometer in there, let's see. What number is it on? What number is it on?
It's on 100.
115? Perfect.
115.
Okay. So, now we're going to take one of the packages of the Red Star yeast and cut it apart. I'm going to have you cut across the top, Lily, and dump that in the water. But first, remember how we said it needs to eat? So we're going to put a tablespoon of sugar in first. So here's the tablespoon. Get that full of sugar and put it in the water. Is it full? No, make sure it's, look at this. This is how we make sure it's not too full. We scrape off the top. Okay, dump that in the water. And we're going to use a spoon. Stir that up a little bit. Whoops, I got 2 spoons. Stir that up a little bit. Okay. Now take the scissors and cut that Red Star yeast open right here at the top, and then we're going to dump it in. I'll take that spoon from you. Thank you. Cut across the top. Sprinkle it on the water. Did you cut enough? Maybe you need to cut a little bit lower. Cut a little bit lower. I have our milk scalding in the back while we're waiting for that. We took 1½ cups of milk, put it in a pan, turned it on medium heat, and then when it starts to bubble up, before it boils, shut it off, and then we're just going to let it sit and get cool while we're waiting. Okay, now get that spoon again and stir that around. I have never had a problem with Red Star yeast working, so that's why we're going to use that today. And they have a really cool website about how yeast works. Okay, we're just going to let that sit now that it's all mixed together. And we're going to wait until that gets all bubbly in about 5 or 10 minutes. You think it smells weird? Because, remember, it's Saccharomyces cerevisiae. It gets activated and starts to come alive. That's a living organism. I should have brought home my microscope. I might add to the end of this video taking some yeast to school and looking under my microscope. That would be cool, wouldn't it? You can probably do that after school someday, maybe. Ooh. Or during lunch. We'll check it out. And when it starts to activate, it's going to start moving around. She said it kind of smells weird. In a little bit, it's going to start to bubble and start to release that carbon dioxide. So we're gonna come back and check on that in about 10 minutes. So you guys can go do other things, come back, and then if you're making this along with us, go ahead and let that bubble, and after it bubbles, then make sure you come right back to this video so that you can see what to do next. All right, nice job. Don't move. We're back. We waited 10 minutes. Lily, what do you notice about that yeast?
It bubbled up.
Does it look like it's alive now?
Yeah.
Very cool. It is definitely a living organism now. Let's see if we can let the camera see it. Oh yeah, it's bubbling, living organism. All right, so now we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna start the rest of our dough. So Lily, the first thing we need to do is the shortening and the sugar. So we need 1/3 cup of sugar. Can you see if you can find one of these measuring cups that says 1/3 cup? 1/3. You see it? Okay. Dip it in my sugar container.
Again.
Okay, we'll level it off at the top. Whoops. Okay, can you reach that? Dump that in. Okay, so we need 1/3 cup of sugar, 1½ cup of milk scalded. It's cooling right now. 2 eggs and 1/2 cup of shortening. So we're waiting for that milk to finish cooling. We are going to get the other things going. So we said we're going to use for the shortening butter and Crisco. So I have Crisco and butter. What does this say right here? Can you read that?
1 tablespoon.
Right here. This, it says 1/4 pound of butter is 1/2 cup. How much butter do we need? We have to think about math. We need 1/2 cup. So this is 1/2 cup. If I had 2 sticks, it'd be 1 cup. And if I want half of one of these, what do I need to do? We're going to cut it in half, right?
Yeah.
How many tablespoons do you see here? Count them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8. So what is half of 8? How many tablespoons do we need if we're going to cut it in half? 4. You're right. Did you wash your hands again when we came back? A quick break for Lily to go wash her hands. Lily, we said we were going to use half of this stick of butter. How many tablespoons were in the whole butter?
8.
8. So half would be how many?
4.
So we're going to count to 4 and then you're going to cut it on that line. Can you do that?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Good job. Cut it right on that line. If you saw it a little bit, it helps. Kind of hard to cut on that paper, isn't it? And I let the butter set out. The eggs and the butter are room temperature. That is another trick. Okay, will you put that in there? Good job. Nice clean hands. Okay, we're going to set this aside because we're going to need it in a little bit, and I'll tell you what we're going to do in a minute. Okay, now what do we need? You have glue on your, butter on your hands. Here's a little towel to wipe your hands off. Now we need the 2 eggs. And we should always crack eggs. Remember you cooked with me before and we cracked these eggs. Do you remember? Now you're going to crack them one at a time. We only need 2. So you're going to pick it up, crack it on here, and then get the egg in there, and then we'll dump it in there because we always want to make sure our eggs are fresh. Okay, so crack 1 egg into that cup. Crack it harder, harder, harder. 1 more smack. Oh, you got it. Okay, open it up. I'll take your egg. It looks pretty good. So go ahead and dump it in the mixer. Okay, now crack the other egg. We only need 2. The third one is, we're going to talk about why we need that in a minute. All right, I'll take that egg from you. You can wipe your hand off.
That looks like a little one.
Oh, I think it's okay. It looks fresh. Eggs are kind of gross, aren't they?
Yeah.
I love eggs, but not when they're raw. Okay, dump it in. So far, what did you put in there?
Butter, sugar, and 2 eggs.
Yeah, that sounds like the ingredients to anything wonderful. Okay, we're gonna set this back over here because we're gonna need to look at that later. Now, whenever you use a mixer, you should have an adult do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna lock my mixer and turn that on. We're gonna mix that up a little bit. It's gonna mix that before we add our milk.
Yeah.
Isn't it really sloppy with it?
Yeah.
So we're gonna cream that butter, eggs, and sugar together. While we're letting that go, we're gonna get some flour ready. So what we're going to do is I'm gonna have you put the flour into a sifter. So how many cups of flour do we need total? Look at our recipe. You see, yep, how many cups? What's the number in front of that? 6. Okay, so if we're looking at our directions, it said dissolve the yeast with 1 teaspoon of sugar in the heated water. Let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes until it's foamy. We did that. We're creaming together the shortening, the sugar, the milk, and we're going to add that milk in a minute, and the eggs, and then we're going to add that evaporated milk also. And 1 cup of the flour until it's spongy. So we're going to add 1 of those cups of flour. So we need 6 total. We're going to add 1. So go ahead and get 1 cup of flour. Fill it up and I will. Okay, you got it full? Okay, we're going to level that out. We're going to put it into my sifter. Dump it in that sifter. Okay, put that measuring cup back in the flour. We're going to add the salt to that too. How much salt did we need, Lily? 1 tablespoon. Good job. Okay, here's your tablespoon. And you hold that. I'm going to pour the salt in. Okay, put that into the mixer carefully. Can you reach it? Good job. We're going to let that mix up too. All right, now I'm going to shut this off for a second so that it's safe for you. Unlock it. Ooh. Now a sifter. Have you ever used a sifter?
No.
Watch this. I'm going to do it once and then you can do it. I'm going to take this, well, we'll leave it like this. And you're going to pull it like this, and that sifts our flour. We might.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm going to take this off so it's out of your way. And I'm just going to lay it right there. Okay, go ahead. Hold that sifter up above the bowl. Squeeze. Did you know that's an antique?
No.
It is. Keep squeezing. We got to get all of that flour out. Keep it right there. I'm going to check that scalded milk to see if it's cool yet. I think it's cool enough. Keep going. That's a good workout for your arm. So when we mix all of, keep going. When we mix all of this together, it's going to turn into a sponge. That's what they call it. So it's kind of floury, kind of eggy, kind of liquidy, a little bit of ingredients to make a sponge. Keep going. That's only 1 cup. Wait, we have 5 more to do, right? 5 plus 1. Yeah, I'm going to add the scalded milk. This is 1.5 cups of scalded milk. Let me in there, girlfriend. Okay. Keep doing that until it's all out. Keep going. Is it wearing your arm out? Let me see. I'll take over for a little bit. set that right there. Now I'm going to put this back on. You can go ahead and put one more cup of flour in there. Careful. I'm going to turn this on low. Wait a minute and I'll help you. Let's level it up. Put that in your sifter. Okay, so we're going to make that sponge. We're going to add that other cup of flour yet. It's okay. Okay, I'm going to take this off again so you can reach it. Go ahead and get that over here and sift that cup of flour in here. So how many cups of flour do we need total?
6.
6. And how many have you put in?
1.
And how many are you putting in right now? Another one. So how many would be left? Ooh, that's tricky. So we're using 2 and we have 6 total. How many would be left? 2 gone, 6 total. How many would be left? 4. So we still have to have 4 cups of flour. Keep pushing. Squeeze it tight. There you go. You're doing it faster now. Let me take over for a second. Your hands getting tired again?
Yeah.
And sifting the flour helps it to be nice and fluffy because flour comes in a bag. All-purpose flour comes in a bag and it gets kind of compressed. So you can sift that. Also, when you put the salt in, it makes that salt mix up with the flour so that you don't get a big chunk of flour or a big chunk of salt in your flour. Okay, let's grab that yeast. While we're at it, I'm going to have you pour that yeast in. Can you get it? I know. Look how much it's... Oh, let's look at this again. It's really foaming up now. Okay. Can you dump that in there? Carefully. I'll help you. It's kind of hard to reach that. I have it clear over here. Let me scoop the rest of that yeast mixture. So that was the yeast, that 110 degree water, and the tablespoon of sugar to feed it and wake it up. So now we're going to put the mixer back in, the regular paddle back in to our mixer. We're kind of making a mess. I always make a big mess.
A mess? If you have a mess, that means that you have a good cookie.
Oh yeah, then we must cook a lot really well. Okay, go ahead and put 2 cups of flour in there.
2 cups?
Well, maybe just 1. Just do 1 cup. Okay, so we're going to stir this a little bit, mix it up. We got that sponge going on, a little bit fuller, and I'll hold still. Let's get that nice and level. Okay, go ahead and put that in the sifter. And we're going to start adding that flour 1 cup at a time. Okay, you know what that means. More sifting. I'm going to move this out of the way again. Lay it on our cutting board. I suppose I can just stand it here. Okay, start sifting. So this is the 3rd cup of flour, right?
Yeah.
And how many are we supposed to add? Total?
6.
6 total, so we have 3. So 3 cups of flour, that's half of our flour that we need, right?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
3 plus 3 is a double,
Yeah.
and 3 plus 3 makes 6.
Wow, you must have a really smart math teacher. Keep going. Use your muscles. Good job, keep going. So after we get this cup of flour in, and we know that we have 3 more cups, but sometimes you don't need all that flour because we don't want it to be too stiff. If it's nice and elastic and loose, then it's going to rise and be really tender when you eat it. So we're going to keep going with this cup of flour. Your arm getting wore out again?
Yeah.
And then we're going to change to the dough hook. The dough hook is for kneading. And like I said, if you don't have a stand mixer to do this, you can do it by hand. And instead of, I'm going to set that down, put another cup in there. Instead of, well, I think I can do one more cup of flour with this paddle, then I'll switch it to the dough hook. If you don't have a mixer, whoa, that was full. What? We're gonna level that out, girlfriend. Okay, go ahead and dump that in your sifter. Now I forgot what I was saying. Whoa. I need to slow down. Okay, now we're gonna get ready for that dough hook. We don't want to add too much flour, so just wait a minute. I'm gonna switch to the dough hook. We got flour everywhere. It happens. But it's really nice and elastic right now, but it's a little too runny to use to make kolaches. So we're going to, where is that other, I'll use this spoon. We're going to scrape this dough off. We don't want to waste any of this precious dough we've been making. We're going to let this dough rise after we get it all finished. And we're going to talk about fillings. Sometimes, what kind of fillings do you like in kolaches, Lily?
I don't know what
You don't know? Well, remember I made kolaches and took them to you the other day. There were apple ones and cherry ones, and I don't remember what all kinds I had that day.
Maybe I remember a little bit.
So today, my suggestion is for you to find jam or fresh fruits. I went to the grocery store and bought some strawberry preserves, jam, apricot preserves, my favorite, and cherry preserves. Sometimes you can buy the cans of cherry pie filling, but I think that it's just too sweet and too much of the red stuff and not enough of the, okay, we're gonna go ahead and start adding that one.
I think it would be
Not enough of the fruit. So I tend to make my own pie, my own fillings. So I take fresh fruit and apples I cut up and put them in a pot and with a little bit of water and a little bit of salt and a little bit of sugar and let them cook down in nice chunks. I don't want it to cook down so it turns into applesauce, but I want it to cook down enough that some of those chunks, here we go, so those chunks are nice and soft. Because I used to eat pie that my grandma would make, and I loved her pies. She was the best pie baker in the county. But, Grandma Bumblebee, but her apple pies, sometimes the apples didn't cook all the way, and I always thought when I got older, I don't know, how can I fix that? And I thought, well, you know what? If you cook, wait one second, if you cook the apples first and then put them in the pie, it might be more successful. And that's what I do now when I make pie or I make some kind of apple filling. Lily, can you add one more cup of flour into there?
one more.
Yep. I gotta get this dough hook put on. Put one cup into the sifter. Can you get it? Do you have enough in there? Okay, put that in the sifter. How many of you sifted now? What number is that one?
Number 4.
You have to know. All right, so we put this hook on my mixer, and like I said, you can knead it with flour on a pastry type of cloth if you have one. We just realized we forgot to put in the Crisco. How much Crisco do we need, Lily? It's up at the top, on the right. Top right, by the word shortening. How much Crisco do we need? 1/4 cup. So we are going to get 1/4 cup of Crisco. We almost forgot that totally. They would have not been very good. That's why we have to make sure we have everything. Okay, put that in there. Try to get it squished in as good as you can. So let's double check. We switched to our dough hook. We're going to add that extra, keep going, fill it all the way. And we're going to keep adding that flour a little bit at a time as long as it's still elastic and not too stiff. adding all of the Crisco that no wonder it was so sloppy when we were doing it. Let me help you get a little bit more put in there. I wondered why the egg and the sugar and the milk were slopping around so much. That is why. Okay, now you're going to push the bottom of that into this. Get it all in there. We'll get that mixed in. We should have had that with the other mixer, but it happens. Push it all the way. Got it? You got it all?
Yeah.
Yay, nice job. Okay, so we're going to try to get that all incorporated before we add any more flour. Good catch, Lily. We forgot to add the Crisco.
That would have been a major disaster.
Well, it would have been really tough, and it wouldn't have been quite as good. So we're hoping I might have to switch back to that paddle for a little bit. While this is mixing, we're going to keep talking about fruit fillings for our kolaches. And I had said you can use jars of preserves. My favorite is apricot preserves. But you can buy cans of pie filling, like the cherry pie filling, blueberry pie filling, whatever kind of pie filling you would like. One of my favorite kinds of pie filling is blueberry, but I like to make my own. So I take a little pan, kind of the size that I use for the scalding of the milk, and I usually put about a cup of water in there and a couple tablespoons of cornstarch, and I mix that together before I start putting heat under it. And I put in about a half a cup of sugar, or a little less depending on the berries, and a teaspoon of salt. And I stir that up and I get like a clear gel almost going, and then I add fresh fruit to it. And that makes a really nice filling. Okay, what number of flour is this, Lily?
5?
Is that 5? Okay, bring it over here. Sometimes I mark it on paper so I know which one I'm on. Okay, we might not need all 6. It's pretty humid today. We're supposed to get rain and snow today.
What?
Yeah, I know.
That's like crazy.
That is like crazy. Keep going. We're working those arm muscles today. I love this sifter. Some of the ones you buy now don't do this. I also have a sifter that you just kind of tap the side and use it. But I like this one because it has two screens in it to really sift it well. That's why I like it. Plus, it's a cute color. It matches my kitchen. Don't you think? Oh, I'm making a mess again. Oh my goodness. So we have maybe another cup of flour. If we need it, we can add. Let's just see how this is after we get it mixing.
I don't think we need it.
Now we'll see. And then our directions say, once you get it to an elastic point, then you're going to let it sit 5 minutes. And I think that is to let that yeast, that Saccharomyces cerevisiae, you're going to say that before the day's over, let it start working, let that yeast start working and coming alive so that it can be woken up and ready to rise. So we're going to let this sit. Now that it's all incorporated, we got that. Crisco, don't leave me hanging. High five me, girl. Got that Crisco added. We would have noticed eventually, but maybe when it was too late. Okay, so we're going to set our timer and let that set for 5 minutes. Okay, we let the dough set for 5 minutes. And now it says we need to turn it on and let it go for 5 minutes, or hand kneading it on a counter until it's glossy for at least 10 minutes. I should add that. So we're going to let this go for 5 minutes. While this is going and kneading, I thought we'd review again the science of what's happening. Our yeast, which is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, is the scientific term. Can you say that, Lily? Really loud.
Saccharomyces cerevisiae?
Yay, you did it. All right, let's do it together. Ready? Saccharomyces cerevisiae. It's a living organism. It's activated by rehydrating it in 110 to 115 degree liquid. It's a living organism. Single cell organism that needs energy from sugars to survive. And those sugars can come from cane sugars, beet sugars, honey or molasses, those type of things. And that yeast starts working when it's releasing carbon dioxide. Because it's an elastic dough, the carbon dioxide can no longer escape like it did when we had it in the liquid form. Now that it's in a dough, it can't escape, so the gases cause the dough to expand and rise. And that is a fermentation. And we talked about how I got my yeast through Red Star Yeast, and they have a really cool website that tells you all kinds of information, more than even what I told you. And also I found a really cool YouTube video from the University of Leicester in England about the life cycle of yeast by Professor Rona Bortz. And she is just amazing explaining all of the science of this. I just did a little bit for us. And we're going to say it again. What is the scientific term for yeast? Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Nice job, Lily. All right, are we 5 minutes yet? Okay, so now we have our dough, and I don't think we're going to have to add that extra cup of flour. I think it's okay today. So be really careful when you have that extra cup of flour, and if we start rolling it out and it's too sticky, we can always, knead it a little bit with some flour. And so now we're going to get all of this good, yummy dough off of here. And remember how I told you we were going to save this butter? Yeah. I'm going to have you take that butter and put it in my favorite orange bowl. And look at this. You're going to rub it all over. Don't leave any spaces left behind. Well, I get this off of the hook. We're going to get this dough and we're going to put it in that greased with butter. You could use a spray oil or an olive oil or a Crisco or whatever you want, but we have a little bit of butter left here. And so we're going to grease that bowl, get all those little corners and crevices at the bottom so that when this dough rises, it won't stick to the edges. We'll be able to take it out without too much problem. So I'm going to get this, you got it all greased up?
I think.
Okay, I'm going to lay this here. Do you need to wipe your hands off again?
Yeah.
Here's another towel for you, my dear.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to scoop all of this dough into a big sticky ball of dough. And I'm going to put it into the bowl that Lily greased. And then I'm going to cover it with a clean towel. And we're going to let this rise for 1 hour. And in that hour, I want you to go and check out all of the other cool stuff that we have on the ECI STEM Festival page that we sent you when you registered. You got that link. And don't forget, as you're working on things, some of the videos are just kind of to watch, but if you want to make something or a drawing or a piece of paper with some notes written on it of something that inspired you from the videos, you can take a photo of that and post it to our Jamboard, because every time you add a photo to our Jamboard, that is another prize entry to our drawing. And I said we're going to have lots of cool stuff. There's going to be t-shirts, those maze pens that Lily showed you that have Compass Memorial Hospital on them, the putty that she showed you, the play with that we got from Compass Memorial, and we have bracelets that we don't have enough for everybody, but if you enter and you do some activities, you're probably going to get something. Well, I hope so. We'll see. We have quite a few prizes, so we will try to spread them out the best that we can. So we are going to take a little towel, and we're going to lay it across the top. Make sure it's a clean towel. This one I got at Cornerstone Apothecary, I think. and it says, cupcakes are just flamboyant muffins. Do you know what flamboyant means?
No.
Fabulous! How about that? Okay, so we're going to come back in 1 hour and then start making the kolaches. First, I think we have to punch it down and then let it raise again. And the more we punch it down and let it raise, the softer and more tender those kolaches will be. See ya in an hour. Hi everybody, we're back again. We've let the dough rise for an hour. We're gonna punch it down, which means we're knocking all of that carbon dioxide out of the dough, making it flat again, and we're gonna let it raise again for another 20 or 30 minutes. So we're gonna open that up and we're gonna punch it down. Look at that, Lily. We're punching it down, and I'm gonna flip it over, and now we're gonna set the timer for another 20 to 30 minutes to let it rise again before we turn it into kolaches. See you back, buddy. We are back. We let our dough raise 1 hour. We punched it down and it raised again for another 30 minutes. And now we're gonna divide it into egg-sized balls. That's why we have this egg here, Lily. So we can see how big those dough balls are supposed to be. So we have that to look at. We're gonna put them on a greased pan. So that's what we're gonna do right now. I have 2 big pans here, and I also have parchment paper because I like that. You don't have to have parchment paper. You can just grease the pans or spray oil or whatever you want to do to fix it. I still love this towel, it's so cute. All right, we also have some melted butter that when we make our kolaches, we're going to, after they raise, we're going to brush them with butter before we put them in the oven. So we are going to do this. Let me get you a space here, Lily. I'm gonna move this out of the way. I guess that can be there. We're gonna put this in between us. So we're gonna grab, you can watch me first. I'm gonna reach in here, and we just finished washing our hands again. How many times have you washed your hands today? So many. Okay, so I might actually put a little bit of butter on our hands so we don't stick too much to the dough. Okay, give me your hands. Oh, nice and clean. Oh, yummy. Okay, so I've got a little bit of butter on my hands, and I'm gonna grab a piece of dough about the size of that egg. And I'm gonna roll it like this. Look at me. And then I'm gonna lay it down on my pan. Okay, I want you to do the same thing, okay? Grab some dough about the size of that egg, maybe a little bit smaller. Sometimes golf ball size is good. Roll it in your hand. If you need a little bit more butter on there, just let me know. And then we're gonna put them, whoops, you got it? All right, roll it around in your hand so it's nice and smooth and round. We're gonna lay them down 3 across. You still smell that yeast smell?
Yes.
How do we say that scientific term for yeast again?
Saccharomyces cerevisiae.
Yeah, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Cerevisiae. Whoops, I almost messed it up. Let's say it together. Ready? Saccharomyces cerevisiae. That is the scientific term for yeast. And Lily, do you remember what yeast does?
No.
What does the yeast do? Why do we have to have some yeast? Why do we need yeast for this? What did the yeast do? Why did we need yeast? Remember when we put it in that bowl of water and we let it sit for 10 minutes? What happened?
It bubbled.
It bubbled. Do you remember why it bubbled?
Because
It's a living organism. And it starts to, when it rehydrates, it starts to release carbon dioxide. You can put them on your pan, sweetie. Or we can do them both together. That's okay too.
Yeah.
Carbon dioxide. And the reason the dough rises is the carbon dioxide can't escape from the elastic dough. So it makes the dough rise. Pretty cool. All right, when we get our pans filled, then we're going to show you what we're going to do there. So Lily and I got our kolaches all put on the pan. We're going to let them raise a few minutes while we go wash hands. Turn on your oven. I already had mine preheating. I should have told you. 350 degrees. So when that is preheated, then you can put yours in. But we're going to let these sit just a minute because we just messed with them and messed with all of that Saccharomyces cerevisiae. We just messed with all of that yeast dough, so we want to give it time to relax again. And then we're going to come back and we're going to use our fingers to spread little holes and wells and fill those wells with our preserves. And we have cherry, apricot, and strawberry. Lily said she likes strawberry the best. So, two things I want to tell you about. I have some fresh strawberries my friend Laura brought me a couple days ago. So I'm going to put some of those on the strawberry ones. And those real strawberries kind of give it a little bit of an acidy taste because sometimes they're a little sweet after all the preserves. Also, as I was researching, I looked at probably 34 different recipes of how to make kolaches. And every single one is just a little bit different. But the one thing I noticed, there were a whole group of Czechoslovakian people that settled in Texas. Their kolaches are pretty much the same, but many times in our traditional Belle Plaine, Chelsea, this area, the kolaches have powdered sugar on them. I have, one of my husband's aunts even put frosting on them. That was a little too much sweet for me. But the thing I found out from the kolache bakers that are settled in Texas is they put pasivka, it's a streusel, on top of their kolaches. So Lily and I are going to get that ready. Also during the break, where it's a fourth a cup of sugar, fourth a cup of flour, and 3 tablespoons of butter, and use a fork to kind of stir that up into a streusel. Sometimes people put cinnamon in it, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to do it this way. Oh, also a little splash of salt. And then we're going to put that on top of our kolaches when they're ready to go in the oven. So we'll be back. Okay, Lily and I are back. We made the pasivka. I'm not Czech, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. And we have that streusel over there. So when we're done putting the fruit in, we will do that. So we have cherry, apricot, and strawberry. What one do you want to start with? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, Lily, I'm going to push this up a little bit. Not that you're going to float it on the floor, but it might happen. Okay, so you're going to take 2 fingers, actually 4, 2 and 2, stick it in the middle of the dough and pull it apart. See that? Now my dad always likes a good fruit to dough ratio. So a lot of people sometimes just, open it a little bit and put a tablespoon of fruit in. I think he's right, that we should really open them up, and then we can get a lot of fruit in there. Okay, you really are, yep, just like that. Keep going. Do them all. And then we'll start putting the fruit in. And if you have strawberry ones, we'll put a couple of slices of fresh strawberry on top. And then we'll put that streusel topping on and we're going to let them raise again for another 20 to 30 minutes. Oh, 15 to 20 minutes after you get the fruit filling in. Raise them again. Don't get too close to the edges though. You want to keep that edge around there because that's what keeps the fruit inside the kolache. So we're going to put the fruit in and then we're going to let them raise for another 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to take out some apricot preserves, my favorite, and I'm going to put a heaping spoonful right in the middle. And that's going to rise and spread. Why does that yeast dough rise, Lily? Why does this stuff rise? Why does it get poofy? What's in it? The stinky, smelly stuff that you didn't know about. The Y word. Yeast. Yeast. And how do you say the scientific term for yeast? We've been practicing that so much we forgot about the word yeast.
Saccharomyces cerevisiae.
Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Nice. You guys should all try saying that at home too. Okay. So, okay, Lily's working on hers. We're going to get these filled up. Okay, Lily and I finished all of the kolaches, filling them with the jam, the preserves and jam, and we put the streusel on them. Now I'm going to dab each one with a little bit of melted butter, and then we'll put butter on them when they come out of the oven too. But now we're going to let them raise for about 15, maybe 20 minutes. We're getting kind of hungry, so I don't know, we might speed that up a little, huh? Okay, everybody, we have let these raise again. We're now going to bake them for 20 minutes, and then when we take them out of the oven, we're going to brush them again with butter. All right, we're back. We just took our kolaches out of the oven. I'm going to brush them with butter real quick. We're going to review the recipe. Lily, get your magic wand ready to show us the recipe as we talk about it. The first thing we did was we made sure we had all of the ingredients. For the dough, we needed yeast, warm water, sugar, 1 tablespoon because we need to feed that yeast, remember? And then we had to add a little salt, 6 cups of flour. On the other side, we have shortening, which you can use margarine or butter or Crisco or a combination of both. And then we had sugar and milk. You can use 2.5 cups of scalded milk, or you can use 1 cup of evaporated milk and 1.5 cups of scalded milk, 2 eggs, and then remember we let that yeast get foamy after we get that temperature just right of the water. And now we'll talk about the yeast, how it works. We'll have a copy of this recipe with our video. Pick up that chart there, Lily. Yep, we already talked about that. Okay, pick up the chart. I'm going to finish buttering these. We took one of the kolaches off the pan, cooled it, cut it in half because we're going to sample it in just a second. Okay, magic pointer is ready. Now you can see what we've been looking at to talk to you about the yeast. And we talked about the yeast scientific name is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. And then we know that it was a sugar-eating fungus, that it's a living organism, single cell that needs energy from sugars to survive. We activate it by rehydrating it with 110 degrees or 115 degrees liquid. Then it releases carbon dioxide in bubbles, and then as you mix more flour in with it, it becomes elastic dough, and the carbon dioxide can no longer escape, so the gases cause the dough to rise, and that's fermentation. Yeast cells are small egg-shaped particles, organisms, that are 20 billion to 1 ounce. And then I said my sources for this information was Red Star Yeast. And then I told you about the University of Leicester in England. The YouTube, could you stand off to the side just a little bit, Lily? Life Cycle of Yeast by Professor Rona Bortz is one of the things that I looked at too, but it's way technical. But if you want to learn more about it, you can. Don't forget, we added the streusel topping to our kolaches, and that's 1/4 cup flour, 1/4 cup sugar, 3 tablespoons of butter, just a little smidge of salt, and you have it. Those are our Czech kolaches. Lily, let's come and take a bite of this. Are you ready? We cut it in half and cooled it a little bit. Ready? Cheers! What do you think?
Good.
All right. Don't forget to post a picture if you make the kolaches and put it in our jam board so that you're eligible for a prize. Have so much fun today, everybody. Thank you.